Hello viewers, welcome to my channel IITJ Olympiads and AP Physics with Ambarish. And in today's video I have brought a very important concept, the concept of electrostatic shielding. Many students had requested me to make a video on electrostatic shielding. Now this is one topic which is not been dealt nicely in most of the textbooks. They have given some statements, but still the concept is not presented in a crystal clear manner, and students face a lot of difficulty with the concept of electrostatic shielding. Accordingly, in this video I'll try to make it elaborate, and I'll try to explain it in all the detail as much as possible, that you understand the logical proof behind electrostatic shielding. It's not a mathematical proof, but it's more of a logic. But if you carefully follow the logic, you'll be able to understand that why electrostatic shielding works the way it works. Okay, so now for electrostatic shielding, we also need to understand a theorem called existence and uniqueness theorem. Sometimes we call them two theorems, existence theorem and uniqueness theorem. But I'll just be stating the theorem together and also telling you the proof of existence and uniqueness theorem. And after understanding the concept of electrostatic shielding, we'll be applying this concept to a problem from Pathfinder, that is Pathfinder MCQ chapter 12 and question number 20. Okay, so alright, so let's start understanding electrostatic shielding. Okay, so first of all, let me state existence and uniqueness theorems. So what is the theorem? It says that now let me take a laser pointer. It says that for a given total charge on a conductor and a given charge configuration of the universe, there exists one and only one way of distributing charge on the conductor, which ensures that the conductor is equipotential, or field inside the conductor is zero everywhere. So what do I mean by that? Let's say this is some arbitrary shaped conductor and I have given it a total charge of plus q. Okay, so now I can give any charge configuration to the universe around it. So maybe I place some charge here, some charge there. So it can be charge density, can be function of x, y and z coordinates. So for simplicity, let's say the universe configuration is a very simple one. In this case, I have taken just a point charge minus q kept in front of this conductor. So what do we expect? So we expect this minus q, this will attract the positive charge, more of positive charge on this side, and maybe there will be some negative charge on the other side. That will depend on the total magnitude of plus q. So now what does existence and uniqueness theorem say? So let's say I placed minus q over here and I got some charge configuration, let us say sigma naught on this conductor, where sigma naught itself is a function of x, y and z, okay, on the surface. So now the existence and uniqueness theorem says that no matter how many times you repeat this experiment in the same manner, it's not that the next time you will get some other charge configuration. Every time you will get the same sigma naught on this conductor, so long as configuration of universe is fixed and the total charge on the conductor is fixed. That means there's only one and only one charge density function, surface charge density function, for which everywhere the field inside this will be zero. Now why is that? Let's try to understand the logic behind the existence and uniqueness theorem. I hope you understood the statement of the theorem. Statement says that for a given total charge on the conductor and configuration of the universe, there exists a unique charge configuration of the conductor. Now we'll prove it by contradiction. Let's say it is not unique, then what contradiction will arise, we will see. Okay, so let's get to the proof of existence and uniqueness theorem. Okay, so let's say this is the conductor, and here same conductor as the last one, here I place minus q, and let's say this is one of the possible configurations. Now theorem says that there is only one possible configuration, but for argument's sake I am saying that let us say this is one of the configurations possible. Okay, now what will happen? Suppose this were the only configuration possible with a minus q over here and a plus q over here. Then suppose what happens, imagine if I put a plus small q over here and a minus capital Q over here, then what do you expect? So everywhere I'm swapping the red charge with a green charge, and green is supposed to be positive charge and red is supposed to be negative charge. So if there were only one possible configuration for a minus q over here and a plus q over here, so if you place a small q over here and a minus capital Q over here, what do you expect? Everywhere inside this also the red and green configurations will exchange, so that net field here it becomes zero if the uniqueness theorem were to hold. But if uniqueness theorem does not hold, then for the second configuration, let us say if I replace this minus small q red with a plus small q, there's a positive charge over here, and on this conductor I give a total of minus q charge, but this is second configuration, which is not the inverse of configuration 1. So what I'm arguing, let us say there is second configuration which is not just simple inversion of configuration 1, even though the universe charge has been inverted and the total charge on the conductor has been inverted. But I am claiming, let us say there exists, just for argument's sake, there is some configuration which is obtained by inverting the configuration of the universe and the conductor total charge, but the surface distribution is not an inversion of the surface distribution in configuration 1. That will happen if the uniqueness theorem does not hold. Now, so that means there exist two ways of producing zero field inside. Okay, this is first configuration and this is the second configuration. Now if there are two ways of producing zero field like this, then what I can do, I can superpose these two configurations and again I should get zero field inside. Why? Because this configuration alone produces zero field inside and this configuration alone also produces zero field inside. So if I superpose the two configurations, I should again get zero field inside. So what do I get? So this is the configuration I get over here. Now since configuration 2 is not a simple inversion of configuration 1, that means what? So when you superpose these two, there will be some patches left with net green and there will be some patches left with net red. Why? Because if it were the inversion, exact inversion, then red will overlap with exact the same amount of green and then you will get an overall neutral surface. But in case the two configurations are not mirror image of each other, or rather additive inverse of each other, then upon superposition you will not get zero charge density over everywhere, but still field inside this conductor will be zero everywhere. What does that mean? Now what are the consequences of that? So suppose there's a local positive charge density, so there must be some field lines emanating out of it, right? If there is somewhere there is some positive charge density, and similarly if there is a negative charge density locally somewhere, then there will be some field lines entering it. Okay, but then this is supposed to be an equipotential surface. Why? Because if field inside everywhere is zero, that means work done in going from anywhere to anywhere inside this conductor will be zero. Whereas from outside, if you see, where do these field lines go? They can either go to infinity or they should come from this conductor and terminate on this conductor itself, but that will lead to contradiction. Why? Because of if you go along the field line, then the potential keeps on decreasing. So if suppose this green field line goes somewhere and then returns back to the same conductor, that will lead to an infinite cycle. Why? Because that would mean that this conductor is at lower potential than itself, which is a meaningless statement, right? What's the other option? Other option is this field line goes to infinity and these red field lines, they come from infinity, but again there's an infinite regression. You can see that this is going to infinity, that means infinity at lower potential than this conductor, but then you are coming back along a field line from infinity. That means what? This conductor is at a greater potential than infinity, so it cannot be at simultaneously greater and smaller potential from infinity. So that means what? If I assume that there exist two possible configurations for the same configuration of the universe and total charge of the conductor, it leads to a contradiction. I hope you followed my argument. Otherwise I would request you to maybe pause and rewind this video so that you watch it slowly until you are able to follow my logic exactly. The basic idea of the logic was, suppose there exists one configuration like this and there exists one more configuration whose inversion is configuration 2. By inversion I mean replacing the charges by their additive inverses. So that means what? This is the configuration and this is another configuration. The surface distribution is not the additive inverse, but the total charge on this is additive inverse of configuration 1 and the universe charge is also additive inverse, but this configuration is not additive inverse. So I have shown that this leads to a contradiction, that the conductor is at a higher potential than itself, which is not possible. So by the way, I want to mention that this proof is inspired by one of my friends. He's a wonderful physics teacher by the name Vipin Unyal. So I want to attribute credit to him for inspiring this proof. Okay, so again I would say, if you have not followed, please rewind this video and try to follow my logic exactly and pause and think over it, whatever I am saying. Okay, and then you can proceed to the next slide. So I hope I have been able to explain the uniqueness theorem, that why the conductor has to have a unique configuration. How two configurations lead to a contradiction, okay, by superposition. So now if the uniqueness theorem proof is clear, now I can move on to state the electrostatic shielding statement. So what's the electrostatic shielding? So what's the statement of electrostatic shielding? So let us say I have a metallic conductor, okay, this turquoise shaded part is the conductor metal, okay, and this white part is the cavity inside the metal, okay, and there is some charge enclosed in the cavity. Let us say rho c is the volumetric distribution of charge inside the cavity, okay, and sigma c is the charge occurring on the inner surface of the cavity. And you know that whatever is the charge enclosed by the cavity, its negative has to come on the surface of the cavity, that you study in the standard electrostatics, okay. Using Gauss law you prove that, okay. So rho c is the charge enclosed by the cavity, sigma c is the charge on the inner surface of the cavity, okay. And you know that there's no charge in the metal matrix, and on the outer surface of the metal, let us say we have charge sigma naught, which is a surface distribution on the outer surface of the metal, and let us say rho naught is the charge density function for the outer universe, okay. So now what's the statement of electrostatic shielding? Please understand this very clearly. So what is that? First, there are two statements, and the combinedly that forms the electrostatic shielding. So first statement is E due to rho c plus E due to sigma c is 0 everywhere outside the boundary 1. So this is your boundary 1. So outside boundary 1 is just the inner surface of the cavity. So outside boundary 1 means what? This metal matrix and the external universe, whatever that region is there. So first statement means that the total contribution of field due to this pair, rho c and sigma c pair, it is 0 everywhere in the metal and outside universe, okay. So that's one. Then what is the second part of the shielding statement? That is E due to rho naught plus E due to sigma naught, or you can say rho outer and sigma outer. So this rho naught universe charge density function is producing some field everywhere, and the sigma naught on the conductor's outer surface is also producing some field everywhere in the universe. But what does this second statement say? That everywhere inside this boundary 2, that is this metal matrix and plus the cavity region, in these two regions the combined field of the universe charge density and the conductor's outer surface charge density function, these two fields cancel each other everywhere. In which region? In the region inside the metal, okay, that is the metal matrix plus the cavity. So that's the statement of the electrostatic shielding. Now obviously field in the metal is 0, but that's not the correct statement, just the complete statement of shielding. Of course the metal field is 0, but shielding statement is more powerful than that. It doesn't say that field in the metal matrix is 0. It says that it is 0 separately due to two pairs. Due to sigma naught and rho naught, it is separately 0 in this region, and due to sigma c and rho c, again it is separately 0 in this metal matrix, okay. So please keep that in mind. Shielding statement should be crystal clear in your mind. So very important concept from IIT point of view, okay. So now we will try to prove shielding using the uniqueness and existence and uniqueness theorem and some basic electrostatics logic. So let's get to the proof of the electrostatic shielding, okay, in the next slide. So now I'm going to make a claim. What is the first claim? First claim is that for any given volumetric charge distribution rho c, let us say we have some rho c, some charge distribution. Now anywhere you have put in space some rho c, okay, and a given surrounding surface, and after giving rho c you imagine a surrounding surface, okay. So what's the claim? That there always exists a surface distribution function sigma c such that combined field of rho c and sigma c is 0 everywhere outside the surrounding surface, okay. For example, let us say this is rho c, some charge distribution I have given somewhere in space, and then I have created an imaginary surrounding surface, okay. And my claim is that we can always come up with some sigma c function for the surrounding surface such that rho c and sigma c lead to 0 field everywhere outside this region. Now what is the logic behind that? I can do a thought experiment. Imagine that you have an infinite metal matrix, okay, infinite metal matrix, and in that you have created a cavity of the surface exactly like on which you are wanting to distribute sigma c. So you have created a cavity in infinite metal matrix, and in that cavity you are imagining the same charge distribution rho c, okay. Now you know that since it's metal matrix all the way up to infinity, and there is rho c and there is sigma c, so everywhere in the infinite region outside this cavity the field is going to be 0 because field in the metal matrix is 0. And now you know that this field at any finite point will be only due to sigma c and rho c. Why? Because you know that by charge conservation some charge is going to escape all the way up to infinity. But whatever charge is at infinity, that cannot produce any finite field at a nearby point. That means what? At any finite, at any point which is at a finite distance from this boundary 1, the field due to rho c and sigma c must be 0. So what I've proved that I've proved that this exists. Okay, for any given rho c there exists in any given rho c and boundary 1 there exists some sigma c on boundary 1 that can be given such that rho c and sigma c create a cancelling field everywhere outside the boundary 1. Now carrying out this thought experiment further one step. Now what happens? Suppose from the infinite conductor I start removing material from infinity up to some finite distance. I start removing material. So what kind of material am I removing? You know that metal matrix is neutral overall. So you are digging out neutral material, and let's say you work very hard and remove so much neutral material that now you end up with a finite conductor. So that means what? Now for this finite conductor also, the field everywhere outside this region must be still the same. Why? Because the dirt that you have removed, the material that you removed was neutral in the first place. That means what? With this rho c and this sigma c, which corresponds to an infinite conductor, same sigma c function you have taken here. So this rho c and this sigma c will produce 0 field everywhere in this conductor and as well as outside this conductor. Okay, so this is my first claim, and I hope this is, you have understood the justification of this claim, that even with a finite conductor I can have in the cavity, suppose there is rho c, I can come up with some sigma c which will create a 0 field throughout the conductor. These two combinedly will give a 0 field in this blue region, which is the conducting material. Okay, now there is one more claim. So what is the second claim? Second claim is that for any given volumetric distribution rho naught in the universe and a given conductor with some given charge, there exists a surface distribution sigma naught such that net field in the conductor becomes 0 due to the charge of the universe and the charge on the conductor surface. Now this is pretty simple. Now this time let us say this bluish solid conductor is there, and I have given some rho naught to the universe and there is some charge given to this conductor. Then obviously I know that in electrostatic situation the charge movement will not stop until the field inside becomes 0. So that means what? In steady state there has to be 0 field inside, and that means what? There will be some charge distribution coming on the outer surface of this conductor, which along with the universe charge density and the surface charge density will make this field 0. So this is always possible. Now extend this thought experiment a little further. So what I can do now, I can start digging material from inside this conductor. So you know that inside this conductor already the field was 0. So what you are digging out is neutral material. So even if you create cavity inside this, so field in this cavity also will be 0. So I can say that due to the charge distribution in the universe and the surface distribution in the conductor, the field in this region is 0 as well as in this bluish region is 0. Okay. So now what did I prove? In claim 1 I proved that it is always possible to come up with some surface distribution in the cavity corresponding to the charge enclosed by the cavity such that surface distribution and the cavity charge give 0 field in this region. Okay, and now I have proved that corresponding to some charge distribution in the universe and the surface distribution, I can always come up with a surface distribution such that the universe charge density and the surface charge density give a 0 field over here. And what does the uniqueness say? That there is one and only one way of achieving 0 field in this conducting region, and I have come up with one specific way of creating 0 field. So by uniqueness theorem I can say that if I come up with one way of generating 0 field in the conductor, then that must be the only way of creating 0 field. So let me explain in more detail what I want to say. So according to claim 1, I said that there is a way of creating 0 field in this blue region using rho c and sigma c. So rho c and sigma c combinedly can give 0 field over here. That is always possible. That was my claim 1. And claim 2 was rho naught and sigma naught. There can always exist some way of distributing charge on outer surface such that rho naught and sigma naught can always give 0 field over here. And what does the uniqueness say now? So since this and this can give 0 field over here separately, and this can give 0 field over here separately, so that means what? This must be the only way of creating 0 field in the conductor. So that's the beauty of uniqueness theorem. If you have found one way of creating zero field in the conductor, then that is the one and the only way of creating zero field in the conductor. For what? For under what constraints? For a given charge density function of the universe. Now here you can say that universe is your inner cavity region, and anything that is not the part of conductor matrix is the universe. So if you have given some rho c and some rho naught, there exists only one way of getting sigma naught and sigma c, for which field everywhere inside this is zero. And what is that way? That is the way in which rho naught and sigma naught separately give zero field here, and rho c and sigma c separately give zero field over here. So I hope you understood the proof of electrostatic shielding and also the proof of uniqueness theorems. And once again, I would say that this concept is a little bit involved, so I would request you, in case you have not followed, please pause, feel free to pause the video and think a little bit on what I am saying. Try to follow the logic step by step, and I am sure you will be able to understand what I said. Because this is actually a very involved concept, and it might take you maybe watching this video 2 times to get it fully. So I encourage you to meditate over what I've said and understand this in great detail, in a crystal clear manner. I've explained everything step by step, but still it requires a lot of thought. That's, I can say, from my teaching experience. Okay. So now, to make this concept more concrete, I'll try to apply electrostatic shielding to one of the Pathfinder problems. So let me see how we can, let's see how we can use this electrostatic shielding theorem for solving problems. So here's the problem from Pathfinder. What is that? Consider a thin conducting shell of radius small r carrying a total charge q. 2 point charges small q and 2q are placed on points A and B, which are at distances 0.5 r and 2 r from the center C of the shell respectively. If the shell is earthed, how much charge will flow to the earth? Now here is the problem. This is a thin conducting shell. Okay, the thin conducting shell, and it is given a charge q. So what will happen? And inside there is at point A we have put a charge small q, and outside at point B we have put a charge 2q. Now what will happen? By shielding, that we learned that this small q, and there will be some cavity charge minus q distributed on the inner surface of cavity. So this small q and that minus q will lead to zero field everywhere outside this. Okay. So as far as outside space is concerned, this small q and the cavity inner surface charge is as good as absent. It's not producing any electric field effects, right? So you might as well forget the charge enclosed by the cavity and the charge on the inner surface of the cavity, because their existence does not matter in the region outside the metal or even in the metal matrix, because they are contributing to zero field. Okay. And another thing, this B you have given charge 2q, and there will be some surface distribution, and B and the surface distribution together will lead to zero field everywhere in this region. Okay. So now let's try to understand the solution. Okay. So what's the initial configuration? You have put a 2q over here, and there is a small q over here, and because it's inside the cavity, so cavity gets a minus q, and there is a now total charge on this metal shell was supposed to be q. So if minus q is coming inside, so there has to be 2q on the outside. And of course this 2q is not uniformly distributed. It will be somewhat distorted due to presence of this plus 2q over here, such that this 2q and this 2q are giving zero field in the entire region inside the metal matrix and this cavity. Okay. And now there is a switch which we will be closing. Okay. So now what happens after I close the switch? So after you close the switch, some charge will flow into earth, such that the potential of the shell must be zero. So now I can argue, please follow the argument very carefully. So I am saying that the potential of the shell is zero. So potential of the shell is due to two pairs. One is, let us say, outer surface gets a charge x, and this is 2q. So one is the potential contribution due to this x and 2q. Okay. And the other is the potential contribution due to small q and minus q. So you know that small q and this minus q, that's a charge enclosed in the cavity and the charge on the surface of the cavity, they're anyway giving zero field all the way up to infinity. That means what? If you bring a unit test charge from infinity to the surface of this shell, this plus q green and this minus q red, these do not matter at all. So they are anyway producing zero potential on the surface of this, right? So if you are earthing, that means what? We want that potential due to this plus 2q and potential due to this x must be zero on this surface. And field due to this plus 2q and field due to this x is 0 everywhere in the region. That means what? If the potential contribution of X and 2Q is 0 on the surface, that means what? It is also 0 everywhere inside, because their field contribution is 0, so no work will be done in going from surface to inside. So I might as well say that due to X and this 2Q, the potential at the center is also 0, because on the surface it is 0, okay, and from surface to inside they have anywhere no field contribution, okay. So I hope you followed the logic. Now I'm going to make the equation. So due to X and due to 2Q, at the center I'm making the potential 0, because it's the same potential that will be on the surface due to these two, because they have not created any field inside, okay. So now what's the equation? So this X, it may be non-uniformly distributed on the surface, but from the center it's everywhere the distance is smaller, so I can just write potential contribution as kx by smaller, okay. So I can write the potential due to X at the center, that is kx by smaller, and due to 2Q it is k into 2Q by 2r, this is equal to 0. What does that give me? So that gives me, if you solve this, you get X is equal to minus Q, okay, solving this equation. Okay, so that means on the outer surface final charge is minus Q. What was the initial charge on the outer surface? We saw on the previous slide, initial charge on the outer surface was 2Q and final charge is minus Q. And whatever the charge is getting reduced here, so whatever is the loss of charge, you know that must be the charge passing through the switch into the earth. So what is the charge that flows into earth? That is nothing but the initial charge minus the final charge. Charge lost from this is the charge gained by earth, okay. So and loss is always initial minus final, okay. So initial charge was plus 2Q and final charge is X, so the charge that has flown is 2Q minus X, that is 2Q minus Q, that is 3Q. So that's the solution to our problem. So the charge that flows into earth is 3Q. So that's that completes my discussion on electrostatic shielding along with the example, and I hope I was able to explain this concept nicely. And if you did like this video, please do subscribe to my channel if you have not already subscribed, and please share this video as much as possible with your friends, those who are preparing for IIT JEE or Olympiads. Whoever might find this video helpful, please share it with them. It encourages me, if I get subscribers, it encourages me to do more conceptual videos, and I want to think more deeply for all of you. Okay, so please share it as much as possible and do give it a thumbs up. Thanks a lot for watching the video, and I hope you liked the video, and see you in the next one.